Hi guys, good morning. Hello, good morning. Can you hear me? Yes, good morning guys. Can you hear me? Yeah. So let us start session. Yes, let us start session. So previous class, some basics discussed. Today topic is about interpreter and compiler we should discuss. So these are the basics. These basics. These are all the basics completed. Okay. 1 second. Just a minute. Yes, someone is struggling to join. Just a minute. Yeah. So previous class about all these basics, low level languages, high level languages, these basics were completed. Yes, next. Yeah. See here, high level language. It's like English language, like C++, Java, Python. All these are high level languages. These programs, all the high level language programs have to convert into binary. Yes, binary codes. Okay. So here binary is this high level language C++, Java, all these programs that high level language has to convert into binary codes. Yes, how it converts? Who will convert? Either interpreter or compiler. See, compilers and interpreters. Compilers and interpreters are used to convert from high level language to low level language. System understandable language. Yes, let us see about interpreter and compiler. What is interpreter and compiler? Let us see about interpreter and compiler. So topic is now interpreter and compiler. Yes, interpreter. Yes, interpreter compiler. Yes, interpreter compiler. Both are to convert from high level language to low level language. What's some difference? What's the difference? See, interpreter versus compiler. What's the difference between these two? Interpreter versus compiler. First of all, let us see how interpreter is working. Next, compiler working. Next, after that, we'll compare it. Okay, first let us see about interpreter and compiler. After that, we'll compare it here. First about interpreter. How interpreter is working. Interpreter. For this purpose, I'm taking Python example here. Python. Support test.py file, some Python script file. Just I'm taking some Python. One second. Okay. Yes, Python. One second. Yes, interpreter versus compiler. Yes, what is interpreter? What is compiler? Let us see. Yes, yes, about Python. Yes, let us see Python script. Did right. Yes, here I'm writing simple script. Okay. See, Python purpose you can use PyCharm. Yes, we are using for big data applications. Python, yes, PyCharm we are using Python. Yes, so using PyCharm, yeah, somewhat difficult to understand. So let us go with Notepad. We'll write the script with Notepad using Notepad. And let me close this Eclipse. Yes. Now dtrade test. Yes, let us see Python scripting using Notepad. Dtrade test. Yes, CMD command prompt. Open command prompt. D colon that will take to D drive. Yes, dir. Here this test directory. CD test. Changed to CLS. Test directory. dir. Okay. Yes. Now this here. Notepad. Let us click Notepad. Notepad. Test.py. Python script. Yes. You want to create new file? Yes. Say yes. See here. A is equal to 10. Yes. B equal to 20. Simple script. Just let us take some simple script. C equal to A. Say adding two numbers. Print. Yes. Addition. Addition equal to C. Displaying C. Next C equal to A minus B. Print. Yes. Subtraction. Subtraction is equal to C. Display C. C equal to A into B. So because in Python scripting semicolon is not necessary. Yes, next print is multiplication. Multiplication is equal to C. Displaying C value. Save. Saved and exit. Okay. Now DR check it. DR. All these coordinates here. Okay. Yes. Test.py. Now this one. How to run it? Suppose if it is C program, first of all we'll compile it, right? Compiling, checking for all the errors. If no errors, executing, right? That is C program. But when come to Python scripting here, C Python test.py. Yes, directly running script. Yes, script directly executed, no errors. Successfully complete, no errors. Yes, completed. See what happens here. Python, it's this interpreter. It's a Python interpreter. Python interpreter executes the script directly executing script executed. Yes, it won't check for any errors, directly executing. Python script executing directly here. Test.py, the script executing directly. Okay, suppose something wrong here, what happens in Notepad? Test.py, something wrong. For example, here, yes, here error. Suppose here, okay, here some bracket missing. Okay, here some double quote missing. There are 3 errors. What happens and how it's working? Let us see how it's working. How it's working. See, run it. Yes. Yeah, this is showing only one error, right? First, the 8th line error. Total actually there are 3 errors, but showing only one error. Showing only one error. So what happens here? Let us see how it's working. Let us see how that interpreter is working. Let us see about interpreter. How that interpreter is working. See here Python script. It's like this. Yeah, the script statements. Script statements. See first statements. Yes, A equal to 10, B equal to 20, C equal to A plus B. Yes, print addition displaying. Next C equal to A minus B. Next print subtraction. Next C equal to A into B. Next print multiplication. So there are some statements like this. Yes, in Python scripting, some statements like this. But how all these statements working? Let us see how they are working here. Yes. Now here interpreter, this interpreter, Python interpreter, not really Python interpreter, any interpreter. Yes, Python is an example for the interpreter. Like this, we have different languages, interpreter based language. Python, HTML, Linux shell scripting, PHP, next Perl scripting. There are different scripting languages. See, all scripting languages are interpreter based languages. All scripting languages are interpreter based languages. Yes, how this interpreter is working? Let us see one by one. Yes, interpreter checking for the first statement. Checking for the first statements. Interpreter checking for the first statements. Okay, suppose first statement is valid. The interpreter first is checking for syntax. Syntax means some rules like open bracket, close bracket, open double quote, close double quote. There are some syntax. Checking for syntax. Suppose syntax is correct. Simply that code converts into binary. Interpreter converts that code into binary code. Okay, then given to processor. See, A equal to 10. First statement is A equal to 10 correct. That converts into binary code. That binary code given to processor. Binary code given to processor. Processor generating output simply. That's it. Checking for first statement. First statement is correct. Immediately converts into binary code and given to processor generating output for that immediately. Okay, see, next coming statements may be right or wrong. See, next coming statements. Next coming statements are right or wrong. See, interpreter never think about next coming statements. Interpreter never think about next coming statements. Next coming statements may be right or wrong. It won't think about it. Suppose the statement is correct. Yes, if it is correct, yes, immediately converts into binary code generating output. So first line completed. First line completed. Next checking for second line. Second one also correct. Second line also correct. Same. Converting into binary code. Second line also correct. Simply converting into binary code. Okay. Second line also correct. Simply converts into binary code here. Generating output here. Second line generating output. Like this here. Like this one by one. First line checking. Then converting into binary code. Then executing. Next line checking. Converting into binary code. Then executing here. Look after it. Next line checking. Suppose something wrong here. Something wrong. Simply stops. That's it. Any error comes, simply stops. This is working of interpreter. See, first statement is correct. Simply converts into binary code, then executing. Second statement correct. Converts into binary code, then executing. Yes, something wrong here. Stops. This is working of interpreter. So working of interpreter is like this. Let us see. I'm repeating once again here. This is see Notepad. See, I'm using up arrow key to get the previous commands. Up arrow key. Okay. See, this is Python script A equal to B equal to C equal to A plus B. Yes, addition is equal to C. Subtraction. Okay. Next, multiplication. So this is script. Okay, save and exit. Save and exit here. Now, running that script here. Yes, addition 30, subtraction minus 10, multiplication 200 here. Addition A plus B, 10 plus 20, 30. 10 minus 20 minus 10. 10 in 20, it's a 200. It's a 200. It's a 200. Fine. Now here, seek a top to bottom one by one. So all the statements execute, right? Suppose something wrong here. What happens? Suppose here the statement error. Something wrong here. This statement something wrong. Suppose here something wrong. There are some mistakes. Totally 3 errors. Totally 3 mistakes. 3 mistakes. Now here direct running. See, suppose if it is C program, first of all checking for all syntax errors, checking for all errors. If no errors, then executing. But Python is not like that. Interpret is not like that. Here, direct execution. See, direct execution. So what's happened here? 8th line error stopped here. 8th line error. That means only one error. Any error comes in, stops. Checking first statement, next. Suppose something wrong here, simply stops. Stops. It won't go for next statement here. Stops. Any error comes, simply stops. Any error, simply stops. Stopping here. Now let us correct this error. 8th line error. 8th line error. Okay, 8th line. Yes, let us open that. 8th line. So this is 8th line. Here error. Save. Save and exit. Now run it again here. Run it again. Yes, run it. Now 14th line error showing here. 14th line error. So only one error shows, right? It's showing only one error. Any error comes, simply stops. Only one error here. So only one error. So this is next 14th line error. So here this is this bracket missing, right? Save. Save and exit. Okay. Now try once again here. Yes, sorry. Now let us run once again here. Run it. Yes. Now 16th line error. That means only one error showing here. Only one error at a time here. We can't see all these all errors. So only one error. Yes, interpreter shows only one error. Any error comes, simply stops. Okay. Now run it. Yes, that's it. Over. So this is working of interpreter. Interpreter executes program line by line. First line checking, then correct, then execution. Next line checking, correct, then execution. Next line something wrong, stops. So this is about interpreter. Yes, compiler. Suppose same thing. If it is compiler, how it's working here? Compiler. For compiler, yes, let us take some C program. Compiler. C is a compiler based, no compiler. About compiler. Yes, about compiler for the C program. Let us take some C program. Compiler C program. Support test.c. How this is working here? Compiler. How compiler is working here? See, compiler checking for the first statement. So first statement is correct. Yes, even it's a correct, it won't convert into binary code. No, it won't convert. It won't happen. It won't convert into binary code here. It won't convert into binary code immediately. Then checking for next statements. Checking for next statements. Suppose next statement also correct. Even correct, it won't convert. Immediately it won't convert. Immediately it won't convert. Even it's correct, it won't convert here. Suppose checking for next step. Suppose something wrong here. Something wrong. Yes, error at third line. Error at third line. After checking for next statement also. Even the error comes, goes to next statement also. So next statement like this, top to bottom. Compiler checks the whole program top to bottom. Compiler checks the whole program from top to bottom and shows all the, suppose next errors. It shows all the errors. Yes, compiler checks the whole program from top to bottom, checking whole program top to bottom, and shows all the errors. Okay, interpreter shows only an error, only one error. Any error comes, interpreter stops. But compile is not like that here. Compile, even error comes, checking for next, here up to end here. So compiler checks whole program from top to bottom. So compiler checking whole program from top to bottom and shows all the errors. Yes, compiler shows all the whole program from top. Compiler checks whole program from top to bottom and shows all the errors. So here first error, next error, like this. Okay, so compiler checking whole program from top to bottom and shows all the errors. This is working of compiler. Okay. After correction, next recompile. When recompiled, everything is fine. When recompiled, everything is fine. Everything is fine. Then what happens here? If everything is fine, then compiler opens another file. Then compiler opens one more file. It opens one more file. Compile, it opens one more file. It opens one more file. Of opening another file, this whole code that compiles C program code, complete code, that C program code. Yes, I assume that this is a C program, like a Python scripting C program. Okay, this whole code converts into binary formats. Binary formats, like zeros ones formats. That whole code at a time converts into binary format. Write to another file. Write to another file. Binary formats. So this that whole code, that C program complete code converts into binary codes and write to another file. Write to this file. This file is called as exe file. Exe, some test generates exe file. Exe means executable file which contains binary code. Exe file. Yes, exe file contains binary code is a system understandable language. Exe file is a binary code file. It's a system understandable language. For complete codes, generating one exe file, that exe file given to processor. Yes, that exe file given to processor. So processor taking that exe file and executing, generating output at a time. Generating output at a time. Okay, fine. Yes, let me show that C program also. C program compile. How compile is working? Yes, C program. This is some C program. Yes, how it's working? Let us see. See, this is main function. Here it's a main function. See this. One second. Yes, some disturbance getting from somebody. One second. Let me mute everyone. Yeah. See, this is C program. C program. It's the same. Here also program to add, subtract and multiply two numbers. Program to add, subtract and multiply two numbers. Yes, wide main int ABC. Enter first number, second number, C equal to A plus B, A minus B, A into B. First compilation series. Compile option. Compile success. Press any key. Success. Compile. No errors. Now running. Program executing. Yes, first number 10. Second number 20. Yes, addition 30. Subtraction minus 10. Multiplication 200. Fine. If no errors, execute it. Okay. Now, let us see some errors. What happens here? So there are some mistakes here. Suppose here semicolon missing. Suppose here bracket missing. Okay. Suppose here, yes, here some comma missing. Okay. Yes. Suppose here this bracket missing here. Okay. Suppose here the semicolon missing. Okay. Yes. Next, here some bracket missing. There are some missing statements. Okay, suppose here comma missing. Yes, now I'm saving that file. Saved. After saving, recompilation. Compile. See this. Totally 8 errors. Errors. 8 errors. Press any key. Press any key. Press any key. See that first error. See at the bottom. 16th line error. 18th line error. 22nd line error. 24th line error. 27th line error. 29th line error. 33 line error here. 38th line. Like all the errors from top to bottom. Right? Compiler shows all the errors from top to bottom. Compiler showing all the errors from top to bottom. Okay, if it is interpreter, only one error, right? Any error comes, interpreter stops. But compiler is not like that here. Compiler checking whole program from top to bottom. Compiler checking whole program from top to bottom shows all the errors. All the errors. No, let us correct all the mistakes here. Semicolon missing. Yes, here some comma missing. There's some mistakes here. Some semicolon missing here. Semicolon missing. Okay, yes. Here's some comma missing. Yes, let's save it again. Saved. Yes, overwriting. Compile. Still 3 more errors. Yes, still errors. So this is error. So this error. Yes, next here error. Yes. Next here. Missing. Okay. Yes, compile. Yes. Saved. Saved. Yes, overwriting. Compile. Yes, compile success. Success. That's it. Success. Now 1 second. Yes, after compilation, no error. If no error, what happens? Exe file. Let us see about exe file also. Let me show that exe file. See, is it turbo C, turbo C, turbo C, C drive. Here turbo C installed. In turbo C bin. Here all the files are saved here. All the files saved here. All the files. The WhatsApp file name here math.cpp. CPP and C both are same. CPP means C language. C language. C language, C++ both are same. No difference. Both are compiler based. Math.cpp. Here math.cpp. Here see this. Math.cpp file here. CPP. See here. This is math.cpp. See here only one file. Math.cpp, right? Math.cpp. Math.cpp. So here what I'm doing here. Yes. First compile. Compile success. Now run it here. When you try to run it here, before going to run, first it will create one exe file. Try to observe it here. Here, observe it here, exe file, run it. See. Yes, now math.exe file created. 12 o'clock. Yes, 28/4. So 28th April at 12 o'clock, 2 minutes. That exe file. Yes, application means exe file. Application means exe file. See, properties, check it here. Yes, math.exe file. .exe file created. Math.exe file created. Yes, it's create exe file. Exe file created after executing. Yes, first number 10, next number 20. See outputs. Addition, subtraction, multiplication. This is working of compiler. Okay, compiler checks whole program from top to bottom and shows all the errors. If no errors, generating exe file. That exe file executes. That's it. So this is interpreter and compiler differences here. Tell me guys, what's the main difference you observed here? Interpreter and compiler, what's the difference you observed? Tell me. As per my explanation, what's the difference you observed? What's the main difference observed here? What's the main difference observed? Yes, anyone? Anyone? What's the main difference observed? Yes, no problem. Right or wrong, no issue. Okay. What you observed, just you share it. I'll explain clearly, no worry. Okay, compile is Jyoti. Compiler at a time. Next. Interpreter is line by line. Okay, next. Next, any other defense object. That's okay, fine. Any other defense object. See, in Python scripting, what's happened here? Script executed directly. Yes, is source code. Test.py is called as source code. This code is source code. This is called as source code. This is called as source code. This source code executed directly. But in case of C program, what's happened here? That exe file created, right? That exe file executed. That is the main difference. Difference between interpreter and compiler is exe file. Exe file is a main difference. See, compiler generates one exe file, that exe file executes. This is main difference. Compiler, interpreter. Main difference is, yes, compiler generates exe file, interpreter does not generate. So interpreter based language don't have exe file. Yes, if it is compiler based language, compulsory it's exe file. That's the main difference. Let us see all the differences. Let me compare this. Interpreter versus compiler. Compare that comparison. Let us see that comparison here. Interpreter versus compiler. The differences. Okay. Yes, interpreter and compiler. Yes, interpreter and next compiler. Interpreter and compiler. What's the difference here? See, interpreter. Yes, interpreter checks the code. Interpreter checks the code line by line, right? Interpreter checks the code line by line. First line checking, then execution. Second line checking, then execution. Is a line by line. Yes. What is compiler here? Yes, compiler. It checks the code from top. It checks whole code from top to bottom, from top to bottom, from top to bottom, from top to bottom. Okay. See, interpreter checks the line by line. Yes, compiler whole code from top to bottom. All the programs, all the statements from top to bottom. Okay. Next, output. When come to output here, yes, it generates. Yes, it generates output line by line. It generates output, even output are line by line. Yes, first line checking if it is correct, then execution over. Second line correct, then execution over. Third line something wrong, stops. Okay, it generates output line by line. Even output are line by line. See, in case of compiler, what happens here? Some exe file getting right. Compiler generating one exe file. That result exe file executing means at a time generating outputs. See, at a time output. It's a at a time output. At a time outputs. At a time outputs. Oh, correct? Yes. Next difference. Yes. It shows only one error. It shows only one error. Yes. Any error comes, interpreter stops. Any error comes, interpreter stops. It shows only one error. It shows only one error. Only one error. Yes, compiler. It shows all the errors. It shows all the errors. All the errors from top to bottom, from top to bottom. It shows all the errors from top to bottom. Also, compiler, it shows all the errors from top to bottom. All errors from top to bottom. Okay. Yes. Next, main important difference: exe file. Exe file. See, interpreter. Yes, interpreter. It does not generate exe file. It does not. Interpreter, it does not generate exe file. Yes, compiler, it generates exe file. It generates exe file. Okay, it generates exe file. So next difference here. See, interpreter. Yes, it executes that source code directly. Yes, executing source code. Yes, that code is test.py is a source code. Yeah, the source code, this code directly code executing. Directly source code, that English language code is a source code. C program or C++ Java, that English program, whatever program we are writing, that is called a source code. So you can hear source code executes directly here. Here source code executing directly. But in case of, yes, compiler based, what happens? Exe file executes. Exe file. Okay. See, interpreter, it executes source code directly. It executes source code directly. It executes source code directly. Yes, compiler. It executes exe file. It executes exe file. That's it. So the main difference exe file. Exe file. Okay, right? Yes, next. See interpreter. See, these are scripting language. Yes, all they are scripting language. They're scripting language. Yes, interpreter based language are scripting language. These are scripting language. They are scripting languages. These are scripting languages. These are scripting language. Compiler based programming language. They are called as programming languages. Programming language, right? Yes, scripting language examples. Scripting language. Best example Python. Python is a scripting language. Next, HTML is a scripting language. See, Python scripting, Python interpreter. Python has its own printer. Sorry. Python has its own interpreter. Python has its own printer. So yes, Python interpreter. Python has its own interpreter. That Python interpreter, yes, executes Python script. HTML executing with the browser. That HTML script executing with the browser. HTML script. 1 second. Advanced Java here HTML. See this HTML. So login.html. HTML. Yes, HTML. Yes, opened it directly executed. See HTML. See HTML script. This is a script. It's a source code. Yeah, it executes source code directly. Can double click open. It's opening, executing directly. Yes, no exe file concept. No exe file concept. Directly executing here. It opened here. Directly executing. Okay. Still it's opening. Yes. Right click. Open. Yes. So that executes directly here. Okay. So HTML also executing directly here. Executing directly. Okay. Yes. See this. Okay. Yes. Right. So HTML. Yes. For HTML browser. Browser is a yes interpreter for the HTML. HTML is a browser understandable language. Next, Linux is a shell scripting. Linux shell scripting. Next, PHP scripting. All scripting. Yes, all the scripting languages are interpreter based languages. All scripting languages are interpreter based languages. Okay. So there are examples of scripting languages. Okay. Yes, one more example, JavaScript. JavaScript is not a Java. JavaScript is not a Java. JavaScript is different. Java is different here. JavaScript is a browser understandable language. It's interpreter based language. JavaScript is a browser understandable. It's an interpreter based language. Java is a JVM understandable language. Java is a JVM understandable language. Okay. Yes, for this example, yes, programming language. C is a compiler based C language. Yes, next C++. Okay, next .NET. .NET C#. They're compiler based language. Okay, right? Yes. So here interpreter based language don't have exe file. Simple conclusion here. Yes, interpreter based language. Yes, don't have exe files. Don't have exe files here. Yes, everything is exe file here. Everything is an exe file. Yes, generating one exe file then execution. That's it here. Yes, here in compiler based language here exe file generates, that exe file executes. Exe generating, that exe file executes. That's it. Okay, fine. Here some doubt here. Interpreter compiler. Yes, they are interpreter based languages. They are compiler based languages. Yeah, this trainer, Mr. M.N. Rao, speaking about many things here, but where is Java? Yes, where is Java? This M.N. Rao is not speaking about Java. It's not talking about Java. Now, here may be doubt. Yes, let us see. Now, what is Java? Yes, now question is what is Java here? What is Java? So is it interpreter based language or compiler based language? Java. Java, is it interpreter based or compiler based? Java, is it? Yes, interpreter. There's a question here. Is it interpreter based? Yes, is it interpreter based? Based. Is it interpreter based or compiler based? Yes, anyone idea? Yes, Java, is it compiler based or interpreter based? Yes. Yes, question is yes, Java, what is it compiler based or interpreter based or both? Is it based on both here? Yes, what is Java? Yes, is it interpreter based or compiler based or both here? That's a question. Let us see. Let us see. Yes. Let us start Java. Now I'm starting Java. Okay, let us see Java. See, except Java in other languages. Except Java in other languages, what happens here? First of all, source codes. With that English language code, source code. Yes, source code. This is source code. Yeah, this code, this C program is source code. This is source code. This is source code. Okay. Python scripting. Here, this is source code. Here, this code is source code. This source code. This is source code. So this is also source code. Okay, now this source code, except Java in other language, source code converts to binary code. System understand the language. The binary code given to processor, then generating output finally. That is what is happening with other languages. Yes, in Java, what happens here? In Java, what happens? Let us in Java. In Java, what happens here? First of all, source code converts into byte code. First of all, source code converts into byte code. That byte code converting to binary code. Byte code converting to binary code. Okay, that binary code is given to processor. So one step extra, right? One step extra. Yes, finally generating output. See, source code to byte code. Yes, here in Java byte code introduced. Yes, why this byte code introduced here? Yes, byte code to make this Java as independent platform. To make this Java as independent platform. To make this Java as independent platform, this byte code introduced. Okay, so first of all, source code converts into byte code. That byte code converts into binary code. That binary code finally given to processor generating output here. Okay, here that intermediate code is introduced here. So you get two steps: source code to byte code to binary code. There are two steps. When come to other languages, source code converting to binary code directly. Source code to binary code, maybe by the interpreter or compiler. Only one thing working here. A source code to byte code by the suppose C language compiler, C++ compiler, Python interpreter, HTML interpreter. Now come to Java. A source code to byte code. This part by the compiler. Yes, it's a compiler. This part by the compiler. Okay. Next, byte code to binary code. Yes, this part by the interpreter. Byte code to binary code. So byte code to binary code. Here, this part by the interpreter. This is by the interpreter. This by the interpreter, right? Yes, let me show some example here. Let us see some example. Yes, for Java purpose, Eclipse is there. Eclipse. Yes, in Java, everything is Eclipse only. See our daily classes with Eclipse. Okay. Now here, simple program. For this, I'm using Notepad. Simple program. Just I'm explaining very simple program. For this, just I'm using Notepad. See, Notepad sample.java file. Java. Yes, creating new file. Yes, public. Yes, class sample. Public class sample. Starting sample class in starting ending. Yes, these methods, main methods. Public. Yes, static. Public static void main. Yes, main, yes, string yes caps, string square brackets args. Okay, starting main method. In this main method, system dot, yes, out dot, yes, println, yes, here it's a hello world. Simple program, just a simple program. Hello world. Closing main method. Save, save, saved, save and exit, save and exit. Not here. CLS screen cleared here. See sample.java file, right? Sample.java file. 12:19 p.m. just now. 28/4, 28th April, 12:19 p.m. Sample.java file developed. Now let us compile. Java C means Java compiler. Now Java compiler checking for all the errors. Java compiler compiling that program. Sample.java, yes, compiled. Sample.java compiled. After compilation, result file is what? Dot class file. Sample.class file. Sample.class file got it. After getting dot class file, here now running this is C. Could not find or load main. Sorry, not sample test class. Sorry, it's a sample class, not just a sample class. Java sample. Hello world executed, right? Now, suppose there are some mistakes. Suppose there are some mistakes. Okay, suppose here this is missing. Suppose here some semicolon missing. Suppose here some product missing. There are three mistakes. Three mistakes. Yes, saved. Now let us recompile. Recompilation. Up arrow key. Up arrow key can get the previous command. Recompilation. See, three errors. So is a compiler. A Java C means compiler. C means compiler. So Java program checking by errors checking by the compiler. Error checking by the compiler. Error checking. Yes, it's a compiler. Error checking by compiler means it shows all the errors. Yes, it's showing all the errors from top to bottom. First one, next one, fourth line, seventh line, eighth line, all the errors from top to bottom. That's it. So here it's a compiler. It's a compiler. Compiler checks whole program from top to bottom and shows all the errors. Okay. Now let us correct all the mistakes here. Yes, main closing. Yes, here class closing. Here semicolon. Yes, save. Save and exit. Now let us recompile. Recompilation. Java recompiled. Here, see this. Sample dot class file generated. At what time? 12:22. Just not generated. Sample dot class file generated. Okay. Now what's happened here? Yes. So source code to byte code. Yes, the dot class file is a byte code file. Dot class file is a byte code file. Okay. See here compiler. So here what happens here? Compiler. See compiler checks for all the errors. Compiler checks for all the errors from top to bottom. From top to bottom. And shows all the errors. A compiler checks for all the errors from top to bottom. Yes, errors checking with the compiler. Okay, so you can sample.java file, sample.java file. This is given to Java compiler, Java C. Yes, sample.java is a source. So this is source. This is source code. It's a source code file. Right? Sample.java is a source code file. The source code for sample.java is a source code. The source code file is given to Java C compiler. Java C means Java compiler. Okay. Yes. Result is what? Yes. Sample dot class file generated. Result is what? Sample dot class. Sample dot class file generated. Right? Sample dot class. Okay. Sample dot Java. Yes. Compilation Java C. After compilation, no errors. Result is not sample dot class. It's a byte code. This is byte code. It's a byte code. Okay. Now this byte code. Yes. Now bytecode. So we got the bytecode file. Tested. Yes, sorry. Sample dot class file got it. Now Java sample running. Yes. Now sample dot class file executing by the interpreter. This is the interpreter. Now interpreter involved. Yes, execution. Error checking by the compiler. Error checking by the compiler. If no errors, generating a dot class file. The dot class file executing by the interpreter. So error sticking by the compiler, but execution by the interpreter. Program execution by the interpreter. So this output from the interpreter. Interpreter, right? Is Java means it's interpreter. This is the interpreter. It's like Python. See, Python scripting. See, Python, right? Like a Python name like this. Python is interpreter. Java it's interpreter. Like a Python interpreter, not Java interpreter. That's it. Okay, right? So here interpreter, not Java interpreter. Now here source code to bytecode by the Java compiler. That bytecode given to Java interpreter, not Java interpreter. Java interpreter. Java interpreter. But Java interpreter, right? Java interpreter, yes. Taking that bytecode, converting into binary format here. Java interpreter converts into binary format, line by line. Okay. See here, compiling program from top to bottom, all the lines from top to bottom, and shows all the errors. If no errors, generating dot class file. The dot class file. So dot class file, if the dot class file contains bytecode, that bytecode given to interpreter. Now interpreter taking first line from the bytecode file, converting to binary code, then given to processor. So now here execution is line by line. Compilation is top to bottom, generating bytecode file here. That bytecode given to interpreter. Yes, the line by line execution, the binary code given to processor. Finally, you're generating output. That's it here. Okay, so here errors checking by the compiler, error checking by the compiler, error checking by the compiler, error checking by the compiler. But program execution, program execution by the interpreter, program execution by the interpreter, program execution by the interpreter. That's it here. Program execution. Okay, so in Java, yes, errors, all the errors from top to bottom. Yes, all the errors from top to bottom checking by the compiler, errors checking by the compiler, but execution by the interpreter. So this is what is happening with Java. What is happening with Java? Okay, yes. Now tell me guys, as per this explanation, yes, as per this explanation, what is Java? Is it interpreter based or compiler based? Tell me guys, as per this explanation, is it compiler based or interpreter based or both here? Interpreter based, compiler based or both? Which one? Yes, come to some conclusion. It's a both, right? Error checking by the compiler, but program execution by the interpreter. Yes, Java depends on both. Java, yes, Java depends on both. Depends on both. Yes, compiler as well, interpreter as well, interpreter as well, interpreter. That's it. Yes. Java depends on both the compiler as well, interpreter. Java depends on both the compiler as well, interpreter. That's all. Yes, here some question for you guys. See, interpreter discussed very clearly, compiler discussed very clearly. Okay, see, interpreter and compiler. See, last for interpreter based language. That means the program executing by the interpreter don't have exe file. See, some conclusion, simply conclusion here. If program executed execute by the interpreter, program executed by the interpreter, if program executed by the interpreter don't have exe file. Yes, don't have exe file. Yes, you understand guys? If simple, very simple here. If program executed by the interpreter, no, yes, don't have exe file. If program executed by the interpreter, yes, don't have exe file. See, in Java, errors checking by the compiler, if no errors, generating dot class file. The dot class file program execution by the interpreter. Yes, in Java program execution by the interpreter means runtime. Execution means runtime. Program running by the interpreter. Java program running by the interpreter. Okay, see, if program executing by the interpreter executed or runtime, Runtime by the interpreter don't have exe file. Don't have exe file. No. Tell me. Now some question here. Some question for yes. Some question. Yes. Can we create exe file Java? Simple. Or is there any exe file concept in Java? Yes. Tell me what's answer. Yes. What you understand? Tell me. As per this understanding, till now what I discussed. As per this understanding, what do you understand here? Can we create exe file in Java? Yes or no? Tell me, guys. Yes or no? Can we create exe file in Java? Say yes or no. Yes, come on, guys. What do you understand? Yes. 1 second. Pallavi is saying that no. Jyoti is saying that no. Pallavi is saying that no. Yes. Aravind saying that yes. Yes, I think. Okay. Next. See, simple. See, if program executing by the interpreter, program executed by the interpreter, no exe file, right? Program executing by the interpreter, no exe file. In Java, which is executing here? Java program executing by what? Interpreter. Interpret Java executing by the interpreter. Java program execution by the interpreter. If program executing by the interpreter, no exe file concept. Yes, is the interpreter. Yes, runtime is by the Java program execution by the interpreter. Okay, Java program execution by the interpreter, no exe file concepts. See here, Java. Let us come to Java program. Yes, Notepad, sample.java file. So first step is sample.java file. Writing Java program. Of writing Java program. Next word compilation. Java C compilation. So we got the dot class file, right? We got the dot Java dot class file. Dot class file got it. Dot Java file got it. Next, Java sample. Yes, executed. Yes, in this. Yes, have you observed any exe file here? In this process, writing Java program, comparison and execution. 3 steps. First writing program, next comparison, then execution. Yes, have you observed any exe file in this? Yes, you guys. Have you seen any exe file in this? Dot class file got it, dot Java file got it. No exe file. Yes, there is no exe file concept in Java. Java don't have exe file. Java don't have exe file here. Okay, yes, there is no exe file. Yes, there is no exe file concept in Java. Exe file concept in Java. There is no exe file concept in Java here. See, suppose if exe concept is a Java depend becomes OS dependent. Java is independent platform because of no concept. That's the topic tomorrow we'll discuss. That independent platform, which are exe file topic, dot class file topic, tomorrow topic that is. Okay, now, yes. So there is no concept of exe file. There is no concept of, yes, there is no exe file concept in Java. Okay, no exe file in Java here. Yes, in Java, see in Java, yes, everything. Java, everything. Java, yes, everything is a dot class file. Yes, yes, always executing dot class file. Okay, yes, everything is a dot class file. See, here always executing dot class file. Yes, in Java, everything is a dot class file. Okay, so what is C? Dot class file. Dot class file is not exe file. See, dot class file. Dot class file is not an exe file. Dot class file is not an exe file. Dot class is not an exe file. Okay, so dot class is different. Exe file is different here. Dot class is not exe file. See, Exe file is a binary code file. 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 Yes, it's a system understandable language. It's a system understandable. It's a system understandable language. It's a system understandable language. Exe file is a binary code file. Exe file is a binary code file with zeros ones format. Exe file is a binary code file. It's a system understandable language. Next, what is dot class? See dot class file. See dot class file. Dot class file is a bytecode file. Is a bytecode file. Dot class is a bytecode file. Dot class file is a bytecode file. Yes, it's a JVM understandable language. Yes, JVM understandable. JVM understandable language. JVM understandable language. That's it. That's it. So in Java, there is no concept of exe file. Simple conclusion here. Java is a yes compiler as well. Java both involving compiler as well interpreter. In Java compiler, yes as well interpreter. So in Java everything is dot class file. Here no don't have exe file. Okay. Yes. See since Java program executing yes executing by the interpreter executing by the interpreter executing by the interpreter yes executing by the interpreter. Since Java program executing by the interpreter don't have exe file, don't that's it here. See any program execution by the interpreter no exe files. See here scripting languages, Python scripting, HTML scripting, shell scripting, PHP scripting, Perl scripting, Java scripting. All these are executing by the interpreter. Python has HTML for HTML browser. Linux shell itself is interpreter. Linux shell interpreter. PHP interpreter. Perl scripting interpreter. JavaScript interpreter is browser. So these are interpreter based languages. So these are compiler based languages. Java depends on both. Java depends on both. Same topic explain document also. Let us see document here. Document. Difference between compiler and interpreter. Interpreter and compiler. Okay, see all the points till now whatever discussed. See interpreter line wherein compiler whole program at a time. Yes, interpret result is line wherein yes whole output at a time compiler. Yes, interpreter. If any error occurs, it stops. Shows only one error. Only one error. Yes, compiler checks all statements in the program from top to bottom. Shows all the errors. Next, interpreter, it will not generate exe file, executable file. Yes, compiler, if no errors in the program, then it generates exe file, executable file. Okay, yes, it always executes source code only. Yes, it executes exe file. Yes, all scripting languages are yes interpreter based. All programming languages are compiler based. Examples, there are examples. See, interpreter based language don't have exe file. Compiler based language, yes, everything is exe file. Okay. See, interpreter based language open source. Open source means anytime you can modify. Python. Suppose any project developed in Python, anytime you can modify. It's open source. If you able to modify that is called open source. Any project developed in the Python, it's a open source. If it is open source, anytime you can modify it here. Okay. Yes. This is not a open source. Exe based. Once exe got it here, you cannot modify. It's exe based, it cannot be modified. It's not a open source. Okay. So compiler based are open source. It's open source, anytime can be modified. So this interpreter compiler differences. Java, same thing explained here. Java depends on both the compiler as well interpreter. Yes, in Java, errors taken by the compiler. Yes, if no errors, then Java compiler generates dot class file. Dot class a bytecode file. Okay. Java runtime by the interpreter. That means program execution by the interpreter. See the steps. Source code. Java C. Result is bytecode dot class file. Okay. Yes, that is given to interpreter. Converts into bytecode to binary codes. Okay, then finally output here. Links with Waves library, that is next class topic I'll explain. Java program, how linking with Waves library, next class topic. See, source code to bytecode to binary code, processor then output, right? See, different stages here. So first one, source code to bytecode by the compiler, bytecode to binary code by the interpreter. Okay, Java depends on both compiler as well interpreter. Both are involving here. Java runtime is interpreter based. See, any language, runtime is an interpreter based, no exe file. Any language runtime is interpreter based, no exe file. Yes, since Java runtime is interpreter based, no exe file concept in Java. Since Java runtime is an interpreter based, no exe file concept in Java. Yes, question, can we create exe file in Java? Yes, no, we can't create. There is no concept of exe files in Java. Yes, in Java, everything is a dot class file. In Java, everything is a dot class file. See, dot class file is not a exe file. Dot class is not exe file. See, exe file is a binary code file and it's a processor understandable, like system understandable is processor understandable. Exe file is a binary code file, it's a system understandable language. Yes, what is dot class? Dot class is a bytecode file. It's a JVM understandable language. That's it. So that's all about all this introduction. I hope you understand, right? Interpreter and compiler. Okay. See, here interpreter and compiler. Yes, many trainers will explain about interpreter compiler, but yes, no one will explain like it's practical explanation. How interpreter working, how compiler working. Practically, no. Yes, I'm sure no one will explain it here about your interpreter and compiler like this. Okay. Yes. Next, exe file. Yes, what is exact exe file? What is dot class file? The topic we should discuss. Yes, exe file and dot class. What is exe? What is dot class file? Exe file is a OS dependent. Dot class file is a independent platform. Yes, let me add this point also. Yes, exe file. See, exe file, exe file is an OS dependent here. OS dependent. OS dependent. OS dependent. Okay, dot class file. Yes, is an independent platform. Independent of independent platform. Independent platform. Dot class file is independent platform. Yes, how dot class file is independent platform? That is tomorrow topic. Next, exe file is OS dependent. Why exe file is OS dependent? That is also discussed tomorrow. So exe file is OS dependent. Why exe file is OS dependent? What's the reason? What's the reason? Why exe file is OS dependent? Next, what is dot class? Yes, how it's made as independent platform. It's the topic tomorrow topic. See, independent platform. So here we are going to discuss about exe file and dot class file. Here tomorrow topic is very interesting. Tomorrow topic is very interesting. Tomorrow topic, don't miss it. See, guys, yes, you may be joining to my batches or not. That is secondary. But don't miss tomorrow class. Very, very interesting and important topic. Tomorrow topic is very, very interesting and important for the software field. Any for any all these things here. For all, very, very important. So here, don't miss it. You try to attend it here. Yes, maybe joining into my classes or not. That is secondary. But don't miss tomorrow class. Yeah. So that's all enough for today. Yes, tomorrow we'll continue for the yes independent platform and portable these features. So these features in this we'll be discussing about exe file and dot class file. Very interesting topic this is. Tomorrow we'll continue. Yes, tomorrow all that basics finishing. Next, starting Java installation, Eclipse setup, and writing first program. Tomorrow all the introductions finishing. That's it. That's all for today. Yes, any doubts? Yes, doubt. Any doubt, guys? Yes, any doubt? Yes, no doubt, right? Yeah. So thank you guys. Yes, enough for today. Tomorrow will continue. Tomorrow will continue. So thank you guys. Yes, see you tomorrow. Same link tomorrow also. Tomorrow also same link. No change. Thank you guys.